first up is the big news this week about the raid on the home and the office in the hotel room of Mr. Cohen, who was Donald Trump's personal lawyer. And it was an extraordinary development because it was done by supposedly the Southern District of New York, or authorized by officials there in the U.S. Attorney's Office. The FBI did the raid and supposedly had been signed off on by Rod Rosenstein after being referred to him by Robert Mueller, Special Counsel Operation. So this is how it works. Mr. Mueller gets information about Mr. Trump, and all of a sudden it gets laundered into the Justice Department, and the Justice Department, because they're afraid of Mueller and opposing him, say yes to everything, it looks like, and then do this raid on Trump's lawyer's home and office and such. Now look, it's an extraordinary development for the lawyer of anyone to be raided by the FBI. It happens, but it happens in circumstances not anything like what we're facing here. A mob lawyer, someone who's affecting a crime or maybe impacting, has evidence of a crime or is participating in a crime, lawyers for terrorists. You know, those are the sorts of people that get raided. Here you've got, at best, allegations, according to the published reports, that Mr. Cohen gave money in a transaction before the election to prevent women who said they were having affairs with Donald Trump from publicizing information. And the allegation is, well, you can't do that because those payments would be in-kind campaign contributions by the lawyer to the presidential campaign, which I don't know is true or not legally. I think you might be able to make that case. I think it's a difficult case to make, and it's certainly not the sort of case that would warrant the extraordinary step of the FBI raiding the lawyer's office of the President of the United States. Now, you may wonder, what about attorney-client privilege? Well, that's why it's so rarely done. And supposedly there will be teams in place that will prevent and secure attorney-client related material and prevent the wrong people from seeing it or it being misused. Well, don't you believe it? I mean, I think this is a way of the deep state getting revenge on Donald Trump. This president is criticized the DOJ and FBI's handling and mishandling of the various investigations, the slow walking of documents to Congress. And then the agency, within a week, raids his lawyer's office. You know, and this Mr. Cohen has been Trump's lawyer for a decade. And with the raid, Cohen now presumably is the subject of an investigation. So now they've torn asunder, in many ways, the attorney-client relationship between President Trump and his lawyer. He's been cut off. Knowing Trump, he's probably going to still use him as his lawyer, but the goal is to make that difficult. And Mueller, if you've been watching any of these videos or tracking what we say or what I say on Twitter, you know I don't think much of the Mueller operation. But the dishonesty here of using the Justice Department, laundering charges that Mueller knows he wouldn't have been able to get authorization to directly investigate, and getting the Justice Department to do his dirty work up in New York is, to me, is a dramatic example as to why the Mueller investigation is out of control and needs to be shut down. Practically speaking, he doesn't answer to anyone who's been appointed under the Constitution of the United States. If you look at the special counsel regulations, go look at them. You can look them up. And I don't have them in front of me, but I recall specifically they say the Justice Department shall now not supervise Mueller or the special counsel on a day-to-day basis. As I said before, how does that work constitutionally speaking? And now Rod Rosenstein is in for a pound, in for a penny, in for a pound with Mueller, and is refusing to say no to anything he wants to do. We've talked about the CYA memo he wrote back in August of 2017 to justify after the fact the raid and investigation of Paul Manafort, the raid of Manafort's home. Remember, they went in an early morning raid with guns drawn, photographed his suits, and now they're investigating payments the president's lawyer may have made to women. What does that have to do with Russia? Absolutely nothing. So now the president has a special counsel and a Justice Department is just figuring out a way to put him in jail. Not because they have evidence of crimes, but because they think he shouldn't be there. Now, I don't think Rod Rosenstein wants to put the president in jail directly. I don't think Jeff Sessions, obviously not. But they are frozen in place by the poor decisions they've made, and they're afraid to confront Mueller. And this is why the president should step in and order that Rosenstein fire Mueller or fix the special counsel regulations to make him answerable to and accountable to the American people. And again, this is just one additional reason to do that. We've got the FISA Clinton DNC dossier used to target Trump, also used presumably by Mr. Mueller. Why would that corrupt misuse of that dossier before the FISA courts not be a reason to shut Mueller down? You know, there are a lot of options the president can exercise. I think he's in court this week. He has a lawyer in court just today trying to protect his documents up in New York. And he just pardoned today Scooter Libby, the former chief of staff to Vice President Cheney, who was prosecuted for lying to investigators under the Bush administration. Turns out, according to the documents that are out there, and I didn't realize this had happened, one of the key witnesses against him says that she was lied to, and her testimony would have been dramatically different. And it was testimony that helped convict them. So the president pardoned him, Mr. Libby, today, which raises the issue. So you shut Mueller down, or how else can you fix the situation? You pardon anyone who's being targeted by Mueller or the Justice Department as a result of Mueller's referrals. Pardon everybody. Now, it may mean that people who did things wrong don't get prosecuted. But I don't even think those people can be fairly prosecuted by this Mueller operation because of the obsessive focus on President Trump and the desperation to get convictions to justify its desperate focus and continued existence to try to destroy President Trump. You know what's disappointing? Congress hasn't done anything on Mueller. Last I checked, there were some senators who don't like President Trump to begin with in the Republican Party in the Senate who are advancing legislation or threatening to advance legislation to protect Mueller from being fired. There's zero oversight of Mueller from Congress. Zero oversight. Zero oversight. So once again, it's up to Judicial Watch to do all the work, to carry the load on our shoulders in terms of oversight for the special counsel. We've sued for records about his collusions with James Comey. We've sued for records about his budget. We've sued for other records about what Comey was up to, obviously. We have FOIAs, dozens of FOIAs related to Mueller's investigation. Congress isn't doing any of that. Instead, its leaders are coming out and defending the indefensible, which is Mueller's extreme efforts to get President Trump. And, the president is rightly livid of this abuse of power to target him. And the Justice Department doesn't want to do the right thing. The Mueller operation isn't going to do the right thing. So it may be up to the president to do it.